Tansin Itute Magtiar Wheatley Nisiga Asun Tawau. Welcome to APTN National News. It will be a busy couple of days at the Assembly of First Nations Annual General Assembly in Winnipeg this week. Chiefs from across Canada will discuss many issues affecting their nations. The annual summer gathering was supposed to take place in July, but was rescheduled due to wildfires in the province. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew and Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Rebecca Attlee are among those who will be in attendance. At a press conference ahead of the event this morning, Grand Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Nepenak said the toxic drug crisis, policing, and the rollout of the $23 billion First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement will be discussed, as well as closing the First Nations infrastructure gap and Bill C-5's Building Canada Act, which looks to fast-track projects of national interest.
This week's assembly is also significant because it's the first time that chiefs will formally gather to discuss resolutions on the Building Canada Act since it was rushed through Parliament in June. We look forward to debating and discussions on policy resolutions brought forward by chiefs at a critical point in our nation-to-nation relationship. The way the Act was introduced has caused concern for many chiefs. This assembly is an opportunity for chiefs to deliberate and to provide direction to each other and, of course, to the Assembly of First Nations.
Canadian actor Graham Greene, who broke through with memorable roles across several genres at a time when the entertainment industry shunned Indigenous talent, has died at age 73.
So, Buffalo, Tatanka, Buffalo.
Greene is best known for his Oscar-nominated role as Kicking Bird in Dances with Wolves. Greene also gave standout performances in movies like Clear Cut, Thunderheart, Wind River, and Die Hard with a Vengeance. He was prolific on TV, as well recently seen on shows like The Last of Us, Reservation Dogs, and Tulsa King. Earlier this year, he was given a Performing Arts Award for Lifetime Artistic Achievement by Governor-General Mary Simon. Greene's manager confirmed he died in Stratford, Ontario, following a long illness. In the Northwest Territories, over 700 people have been evacuated from the community of Fort Providence as a wildfire is encroaching within 1 kilometer of parts of the community. On Sunday, August 31st, community members were ordered to evacuate as the fire's southeastern edge moved within 900 meters of the community's southeastern border. The lightning-caused fire has been burning since July 7th. It grew significantly from high winds on the night of August 30th and is now over 100,000 hectares in size. The community of Wati also remains under an evacuation order. A member of a Northern Ontario First Nation is taking her chief and council to court over the disbursement of an historic treaty settlement. Renee Bellew is asking the federal court to direct the leadership of Garden River First Nation east of Sault Ste. Marie to, quote, create a fulsome, fair, transparent, and meaningful process, unquote, pertaining to the distribution of settlement money. APTN's Mike McDonald reports.
Renee Bellew has been holding protests off and on outside the Garden River Band office, concerned about the handling of the per capita distribution of money received through the Robinson-Huron Treaty Annuity Settlement with the governments of Canada and Ontario. First Nations within Robinson-Huron Treaty territory received $10 billion in the settlement, with Garden River receiving around $610 million. Garden River leadership set aside $200 million in a legacy trust, with the remaining funds distributed directly to band members. Since Bellow's initial protests, she's been looking for allies outside of the First Nation to help her cause.
Reading a couple of the stories, I did a shout out on a media site, a social media site, and Rob actually responded to me. Bellew was referencing Rob Louie, the president and founder of the Band Members Alliance and Advocacy Association of Canada, or BMAC, a nonprofit whose mandate is to advocate and assist band members seeking accountability and transparency in First Nation governance. He said he's heard from many Robinson-Huron citizens with concerns about transparency. He believes there's a problem.
This is one of the largest cases that I've seen, because we're talking about a $10 billion comprehensive settlement that has been dispersed amongst a number of First Nations here. So the members have been, for the most part, shut out of the process. and they've been what I would call on a need-to-know basis by the chief and council, which really flies in the face of what meaningful consultation with membership is all about. So they should have been informed right from the start in a very open and transparent way, which from what I see has been lacking all the way through until now.
Louis says BMAC has gone to bat for a number of First Nation citizens fighting for financial transparency, and he anticipates more calls from band members and other communities in the coming months.
BMAC has been involved in financial transparency cases for the last 6 years. It's one thing to have chief and council not comply with the First Nation Financial Transparency Act. It's another thing for our chief and council to ignore their fiduciary duty over their First Nation membership.
Meantime, Bello says her court battle is to ensure Garden River band members get what she and others feel is owed to them.
I definitely want to see the 200 million in Garden River First Nations people's hands and pockets.
APTN reached out to Garden River First Nation leadership for comment, but did not receive a response before deadline. Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Sault Ste. Marie.
And Garden River First Nation released a statement saying numerous meetings and information sessions, including virtual platforms, were held to engage all community members, and all the feedback was considered before making a decision how to utilize the funds. Leadership adopted a balanced approach and created a legacy trust to ensure long-term benefits for future generations. And understand, while not all agree with the decision, Chief and Council act for the best interest of the nation and are committed to open communication with members. Sauble Beach in Northern Ontario is here to stay. The Supreme Court of Canada will not hear an appeal of a decision that granted ownership of the beach to the Indigenous community. CTV's Scott Miller reports.
Now, some may not like it, but Sauble Beach is here to stay.
You're holding your breath for such a long time, and it's like once you get the noose, it's just like a breath of fresh air and less restriction.
The Supreme Court of Canada has dismissed a request from the town of South Bruce Peninsula to appeal the decision that granted a section of valuable shoreline in Sauble Beach to the Sauble First Nation. In April of 2023, the Ontario Court of Appeal granted the Sauble First Nation ownership of about 2.5 kilometers of sandy beach stretching from Sauble Beach's Main Street north to 6th Street. The case was first brought before the courts 35 years ago, but it was nearly a century ago when Indigenous leaders claimed an 1854 treaty deeded ownership of the disputed shoreline to them.
That's how resilient and patient our people have been to feel finally heard and seen and validated.
Denying the leave to appeal means the town of South Bruce Peninsula and a small collection of private landowners have seemingly exhausted all legal avenues to retain ownership of the beach. That was controversially renamed Sauble Beach by the Sauble First Nation on Canada Day.
It kind of grooms society. It kind of grooms community. It kind of grooms children when you have a colonial name that's supposed to be the Indigenous people of that land and beach.
Contacted by CTV News Today, South Bruce Peninsula representatives said they wouldn't have anything to say about the Supreme Court's decision until after their next council meeting on September the 2nd. Ritchie says now the legal wrangling over who owns Sauble Beach appears to be done. Compensation from the federal government for breaking the 1854 treaty can be discussed. He hopes that can be resolved outside of court. As far as the beach goes, Ritchie says Sauble Beach will continue to be a tourist destination open to the public, attracting millions of visitors each summer.
Now we all have an obligation, a duty to protect this land and this water and making sure that it's still here for future generations.
For those confused, Ritchie says Sauble Beach remains the name of the popular beachside town, which is still owned and operated by the town of South Bruce Peninsula, but the beach will be called Sauble Beach now that it is in Sauble First Nation control. In Sauble Beach, Scott Miller, CTV News.
Time for a quick break. When we come back, we take you north for a story about those furry little creatures that have been all the hype lately. Chesqua. Pitigwe. The Manitoba government unveiled a new monument in recognition of International Overdose Awareness Day this past weekend. It memorializes the countless lives lost to drug overdoses and the toxic drug crisis. According to preliminary numbers from the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner, 570 people suffered substance-related deaths in Manitoba last year. That's the highest number of drug-related deaths in the province's history, but only 2 more than the year before. Methamphetamine and cocaine contributed to more than 80% of the total 128 deaths from June to August last year alone. However, the vast majority of people had multiple substances present in their body at their time of death. Addictions Minister Bernadette Smith says a substance use disorder can affect anyone.
Far too often I've met people like through COVID that were in good paying jobs, that lost their jobs, lost their families, became homeless and started using substances for survival. That's, they didn't ever see themselves in that life, and it could happen to anyone, and lots of people are one paycheck away from being homeless, and that could be their life, and we have to remember that. Nobody knows anyone's story, so when we're driving and we see something like that, we have a responsibility to respond and to help and to support and bring back that village that we once had, that caring and sharing. If they're not doing well, we're not doing well.
First it was Cabbage Patch dolls, then trolls and Beanie Babies, and now there's a new toy collectible that's captured the attention of children and adults alike. As Sarah Connors tells us, a Tlingit artist in Alaska is indigenizing the popular toy one thread at a time.
They're the toy craze of the summer, and it seems like they're only getting more popular. They're called Labubu's, and these monster plushies seem to be everywhere lately. Now, they're even sporting Tlingit regalia.
Just so sweet!
Artist and Chilkat weaver Lily Hope says the hype surrounding the beloved toys inspired her to create her own Labubu regalia. The outfits are made from repurposed dance cuffs and are woven in classic Chilkat colors.
And I said, well, here's an opportunity to share Raven's Tail and Chilkat weaving across the world in a very different way, very accessible, fun, playful way.
The Juneau, Alaska-based artist brought her Labubu regalia creations to the Santa Fe Indian Market in New Mexico earlier this month, where she says they blew up. Since then, Hope says she's received many requests for Labubu regalia, including from Los Angeles film producer and art collector Michael Sherman.
That's affirmation that this is speaking to exactly what I want to do, is reach out to people and say, this is Raven's Tail and Chilkat weaving from the northwest coast of Alaska and Canada.
I think it's fun for visitors and for students and for guests here to learn about weaving traditions that have been in place for thousands of years, but are still making fun and meaningful things for today.
The Labubus also made an impression on the curator of Northwest Native Art at the Burke Museum in Seattle, Washington. The museum purchased a regalia Labubu from Hope, as well as this one made by Hope's Aunt Deanna, to add to its collection.
I think it's fun for visitors and for students and for guests here to learn about weaving traditions that have been in place for thousands of years, but are still making fun and meaningful things for today.
Building on the Labubu excitement, Hope's now selling regalia kits and will be holding classes for those interested in learning how to make Labubu regalia of their own.
How much joy is this going to bring people for the next 40, 50 years to be like, oh, remember in 2025 this happened?
From toy shelves to museum collections, these wacky monsters are helping promote Tlingit culture now and into the future. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Now we want to give you the results to last week's web poll questions. Our first question was, have you had any experiences with police violence? 12% said, I've experienced violence from police. 20% said, I've witnessed police violence. 24% said both, and 44% said neither. Our second question was, do you believe Indigenous communities benefit from projects like pipelines, hydro dams, and mines? 42% voted yes, 37% voted no, and 21% were unsure. And finally, our last question was, have you or your family been directly impacted by this wildfire season so far? 32% said yes, and 68% said no. Thanks to all our viewers who took the time to cast your votes. To check out our new web poll questions, go to aptnnews.ca for our new set of questions. One last break here, and we talked to a Métis woman in Winnipeg about a hunger strike she recently did. Hear all about it when we come back. Welcome back. Starting in the east, St. John's 21, Charlottetown 24. Inukjuak 8, Nain 13. Val-d'Or 22, Montreal 23. North Bay 21, Toronto 23. Big Trout Lake 6, Sioux Lookout 20. Churchill 8, Puckatawagan 11. Barons River 10, Winnipeg 15. North Battleford 14, Regina 14. Uranium City 8, La Ronge 11. Over to the west, High Level 23, Grand Prairie 31. Edmonton 31, Lethbridge 30. Bella Coola 26, Vancouver 24. Dease Lake 24, Smithers 29. Rock River 17, Whitehorse 23. Norman Wells 17, Fort Simpson 20. Tuktoyaktuk 12, Colville Lake 10. Cambridge Bay 6, Chesterfield 10. Arctic Bay -2, Iqaluit 3 degrees. The war in Palestine is nearly 2 years this October. The Gaza Health Ministry reports that more than 60,000 Palestinians have been killed, as cited by the United Nations earlier this month. The Israeli death count is around 2,000 people since the Hamas-led attack in Israel on October 7th, 2023. In response, a Métis woman in Winnipeg went on a hunger strike to bring attention to the war. Monique Vermette spoke with Creason Achikote earlier.
Thank you so much for joining us, Monique. You recently went on a hunger strike for 7 days while also visiting the offices of the members of parliament. Can you tell us about that and why you did it?
Sure. Thank you for having me. It actually started as something I wanted to do for solidarity reasons. I have a friend who also did the same thing last year, so I wanted to do this to better be able to feel how it feels to go without food, because currently in Gaza, the starvation is it's really terrible what's going on right now. People are going without food. Children are starving. Over 230 have died of starvation. So I wanted to be able to better advocate for this cause by going through a 1-week hunger strike myself. But I then decided that it would be a good idea to bring attention to the cause through this and have clear demands. I did go to several Liberal MP offices and protested in front of them every day of the hunger strike. And I had a few demands. First of all, that the government of Canada recognize that this is a genocide going on and then do something to stop it. Second of all, that they stop all arms sales and impose a bilateral embargo on Israel, which unfortunately, even though the government has said that they have stopped weapons sales, this is not true. There's a whole report on it on armsembargo.ca, and it's really awful what's still going on. And third of all, that the government of Canada pressure Israel through sanctions and whatever other means to achieve a permanent ceasefire and allow the unrestricted entry of aid through aid trucks, as the current methods are grossly insufficient and dangerous.
After this hunger strike outside of these offices, what has been the response from the MPs? Did any of them come out of their office and speak with you in person?
Unfortunately, the response from the MPs, there really hasn't been any. None of the MPs have come out and spoken to me. In fact, several of them have been unexpectedly closed on the day that I go there, probably because of that. And so I have not really been successful in getting any response from any MPs, but I did deliver a letter explaining the demands and everything that they could do. So I'm hoping that this could have reached them, but really I think that what was achieved was bringing more attention to the cause through this, and possibly even, at least I hope, inspiring others to take similar actions, because as we see, there have been protests for the last 2 years almost. But even though these are very good, it's clearly not enough. So I think that the actions like these are a very valuable next step. And if more people started to take them, then maybe there would be greater action taken by politicians.
As a Métis person yourself, Monique, can you also explain what connection do you believe exists between colonization in Canada with the Indigenous people here and the colonization in Palestine?
Yes, so I am Métis from my father's side, and this has definitely impacted how I relate to the Palestinian struggle. First of all, on a very basic level, I care about the Palestinian cause because I think it's something that everyone should care about. If you have a heart and you see the suffering there, you care. Secondly, because I'm Muslim, I relate more deeply to the struggle. But even before I became Muslim, it's still a cause that was very close to my heart. And I think that a great part of that is because of my Métis heritage. I have ancestors who fought in the Métis resistances. I have ancestors who went through dispossession, land theft, cultural erasure, and I see the same things happening in Palestine. People are really struggling to preserve their culture, their heritage, their traditions. Their land is being taken They're suffering from colonialism and oppression, just like the Indigenous peoples in here are. I think that there's a really great opportunity, a powerful opportunity for solidarity between the Indigenous peoples here and the Palestinians, and really any other struggle against colonialism and oppression throughout the world. My Métis ancestors who were involved in the resistances, they were called rebels, they were called traitors, and the Palestinians, if they resist against oppression, they are called terrorists. I think that being Métis and having that heritage really helps me understand this better and be able to better advocate for people.
Yeah, for sure. Monique Vermette, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ginanaskamitin, Monique, and Creason. And that's your daytime newscast for this Tuesday, Minot Gisagawanoots. Join us again tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm TR Wheatley. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. From all of us at APTN in front of the cameras and behind the scenes, Egasi, Gitam, Kawapamitinanaw.